Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joined us. It's me, Olga Tamanova, and Ukrainian Media Center Ukrinform continues its operation. More than 250 days, the offensive of the Russian aggressor is in progress, and I want to thank all the representatives of the mass media who tell the truth about this war to the world. And now we will talk about the problems which emerged recently with the export of Ukrainian grain. Coming up live with us is Andrii Klymenko, head of the monitoring group of the Institute for Black Sea Strategic Studies. Good afternoon, Mr. Andrii. Good afternoon, Mr. Andrii. Recently, the circumstances about around the grain deal are changing very dynamically. Russia declared that they withdraw from the deal, and we've seen this statement in the morning that Turkey and the United Nations coordinated the movement of the vessels with the grain. What was the influence of these statements, and what's the situation with the grain, with the export of grain for the time being? First of all, I would like to say that it would be pretty interesting to all the representatives of the mass media to see how dynamically the circumstances developed around the deal this morning. Within 4 hours in the morning, the exit of 12 vessels which were approved for exit by the Joint Coordination Center. They were at the muster point in Odessa Bay, in all 3 ports, in Odessa, Pivdene, and Chernogorsk. All these vessels received a radiogram. Attention, vessel, name of the vessel, International Humanitarian Corridor is closed for transit by Russian Federation. You're in danger. Please withdraw from the humanitarian corridor and return to northern muster point until further notice. In just half an hour at 8:33, these it's necessary to mention that this radiogram was received from an email address with JCC extension, so Joint Coordination Center. In just half an hour, the Secretariat of Joint Coordination Center sent a radiogram to all the vessels. Dear Captain, the below message was not approved by the JCC, and the authorities of Russian Federation are informed about your intentions to use the grain corridor. Russia undertook the following obligations: not to fulfill any attacks on the vessels and ports involved in this initiative, with a link to the full text of agreement. Please refer to other than the previous radiogram messages. Very respectfully, Secretariat of the JCC. Then, in another half an hour at 9:07, the captains received the following message. Attention, name of the vessel, Dear Captain, International Humanitarian Corridor is closed by the Russian Federation. You are in danger. Please withdraw from the grain corridor. With the signature, Joint Coordination Center of Russian Federation. So what we've seen in the morning is that Russian Federation, acting on behalf of the Joint Coordination Center, on its own, they informed all the vessels that the passage through the corridor is closed, and it did not offer but demanded them to leave the corridor, to which Joint Coordination Center reacted in a correct manner, in a demure and correct manner. but we could see between the lines all the drama going on around the situation. By this, the Russian Federation tried to intimidate the captains of the vessels, and I think it's all related to the position of Turkey's president, who stated that he put it in a diplomatic terms, but he said that notwithstanding the position of the Russian Federation that we can understand, Turkey will continue to fulfill its obligations under the grain initiative, because there are people in need, hunger around the world, and everything that you used to say previously. And currently 12 vessels, and may I ask for the first slide? Oh, I apologize. I was not able to make it real beautiful. May I ask for the first slide, please? Yes, we've seen the first slide. So in the interval from 7:54 to 9:30, these 12 vessels left Odessa region, and they're approaching the island of Zmyiny. And two vessels which remain there near Odessa are to those which arrived from the south today, from Bosphorus, Strait of Bosphorus, and it should be 4 of them in total. 2 of them already reached the destination ports. What's behind all this? Yesterday in the evening, the Secretariat of Joint Coordination Center, which comprises the representatives of Turkey, Ukraine, Russia, and United Nations, issued a formal statement, which is long, and we can find the full text at their official website. They put it in the following way, that they take into account the fact that Russian Federation suspends its participation in the grain deal, and the authorities of Russian Federation accepted the remote participation in this deal. In fact, that Russian Federation prohibited for its representatives to participate directly in the inspections, and they mentioned that in close cooperation with Turkey, they continue their operation to provide the safety and the operation of the grain deal. And it's proposed that the delegations of Turkey and United Nations provide 10 more inspection groups for the inspection of the vessels that are concentrated in the Marble Sea and the Strait of Bosphorus, and the plan was accepted by the delegation of Ukraine, and delegation of Russian Federation is informed. And further on, they write that they coordinated the plan for movement of the vessels for today. It's 16 vessels, like 12 that we've just seen on the slide, plus 4 on the way to the ports. The delegation of United Nations, Turkey, and Ukraine informed the delegation of Russian Federation about the approved plan for 16 vessels. So this document is put in diplomatic terms, but sounds a bit sarcastic. And just in a few words, the essence of it is that, okay, we take into account the suspension of the participation by Russian, but we keep doing our business. Can we please proceed to the following slide? Yes, this is... No, oh, no, yeah, correct. My apologies, it's the correct slide. If you can see this circle in the area of Odessa Bay, if we see that all the vessels follow the same course, and they were sailing. They were diversion from the route, and it was caused by that message by the Russians with the intimidations and demands to stop the movement, and they didn't know for half an hour what to do until they received another message from Joint Coordination Center, and they kept following their normal route. Please follow in slide. So here we can see four districts of concentration. The first one is the officially approved for inspections before the Strait of Bosphorus. District number 2 is another approved for inspection in the south, to the south from Bosphorus Strait. So what was happening from the very first day of the grain deal, from the 1st of August? Inspections were not taking place in district number 1. It's just waiting muster point, and there was no concentration of a large number of vessels. Yesterday it was 46 of them. Now I think it's about 60 of them in there. So the vessels were going directly to district number 2. It's located closer to Istanbul, and it's easier to get there by boat from the shore. And they were going directly to the ports of the destination upon inspections. After Russian Federation started to suspend procedures, to sabotage all the procedures, in the district number 2, it was just not enough space to fit all the vessels. You can see it on the background behind me. They were concentrating there in a very dense manner. There were events of collision of the vessels, and they just stopped there, and the vessels started gathering in the district number 3 by their own without prior approval. So, for example, the vessel passes the district number 2, they see that there is not enough space, and they proceed to district number 3. And then the district number 3 started running out of space too, because the inspections were not going at the necessary pace. So the vessel started going to another district number 4 to wait until there is free space in the district number 3, and then with the same manner they proceeded to district number 2, and only then further on. May I ask for the next slide, please? Oh, well, here we can see 2, 3, and 4, these 3 districts. So this is what is happening in the Marble Sea due to the sabotage by the Russian Federation of the operation of the grain initiative. Me and my colleagues, we monitor the sea for 12 years, and we haven't seen anything like this ever, never, ever whatsoever. So we paid attention to this story immediately. May I ask for the next slide, please? Or even the next one. Yeah, this is the correct one. This is a very good example of the course of a random vessel which went from Strait of Bosphorus, which was going around the Marble Sea for 20 days to wait until the for 20 days to get to district number 2 for the inspection. When it all started, may I ask for the next slide, please? Here we can see this yellow line, this diagram is the waiting time. It didn't start yesterday and not the day before and not even in October. It started on September 18, 19. Before that, the average waiting time for the inspection was around 50 hours. After 18th of September, it grew over 100 and 200, and more than 3, 4, and even up to 500, a little bit more than 500 hours. So we can assert that starting from September 18, 19, the members of Russian delegation received the command to prolong time, to extend time, and to create this concentration of the vessels. And further on, it became even harder, and now 100 hours is even nothing. Now we have a situation where all this queue that concentrated due to the actions of Russian Federation, the average waiting time is 21 days. So the vessel needs 1 day to come from Odessa to Strait of Bosphorus, and then they have to wait for 21 days for the inspection group to arrive, and only then the vessel is free to leave its course, to go by its course. And the examples I can show you on the last slide, I have the record times. So these are the examples of the vessels who were waiting the longest. You see, 528 hours, 494 hours, 483 hours. So 21 days was their waiting time. This is the situation we had back then. Now the situation improved a little bit. Well, we can switch the presentation off now. Thank you. So how do they solve this situation? The thing is that Russian delegation in the Joint Coordination Center impeded the creation of a larger number of inspection groups. On a week ago, on the 24th of October, the Coordination Center managed to talk Russian delegation to increase the number of inspection groups up to 5. It was the style of modern, the way the Russian authorities work now. If you have 4 or 5 inspection groups there, it's understood that they would not be able to process the whole queue of vessels. So, because one inspection group can cover about 4 to 5 vessels per day. So they need a boat to arrive to the vessel, come on board, do the inspection, disembark, and again, due to different complicated weather conditions and the sun setting earlier, they couldn't cover more than 5 vessels a day. On the 30th of October, yesterday, already without the representation of Russian delegation, the Joint Coordination Center increased the number of inspection groups by 10, and it increased without representatives of Russian Federation and without representatives of Ukraine either, in order not to give reasons to not to have any, so that Russia doesn't have any reasons to blame Ukraine. So they completed the inspection and they started sorting out this long queue by themselves. The inspectors from Turkey and United Nations organization, and they make it pretty well because the number of vessels started to decrease dramatically and visibly. And all in all, we received, I won't tell you how we received it, because internet is almighty. It's the notice of withdrawal by Russian Federation from grain deal. It's written after the 29th of October, after the attack on the military sea base in marine base in occupied Sevastopol. That until 19th of November, when the formal 120 days expire, that maybe on the further stages they have to suspend the grain deals so that it influences the economy of Ukraine and Europe and Britain specifically, to increase the inflation, so that 25% of the population buys their food products on credit, and the limitation of export of Ukrainian grain will impact the growth of prices 5 to 7% for bread, and it will drive to the inflation up to 12-15%, and extrapolation to the economy to France and Italy will cause the inflation growth of 15 to 17%, which will contribute to the growth of social tension in the European Union, as per the calculations of Russian analysts. And as a result of the growth of food prices, to the zone of quotation, to the zone of critical pressure, which will cause the weakening of government institutes, and the energy will be canalized to the pressure on the government institutions to press on them to reconsider their policy with regard to special operation of Russian armed forces in Ukraine. So Russians uncovered themselves in this way. So I can forecast these questions. There are two goals to this suspension of the grain deal in their participation in the grain initiative. First goal is Russia wants to have negotiations at least about something, about anything, because nobody wants to talk to Russia about anything. They want negotiations, and the goal of negotiations is the ceasefire in the Kherson region, where their military situation is catastrophic, where they are about to face the military defeat. And the next goal is understood. It's in the same way as with oil. It's another jump of the bread prices in the world, and they think that their export of grain will give them more money. So it's nothing but business. Mr. Andrii, so based on this document that you have in your disposal, we can confidently say that it's a planned operation which was in no way connected with the events that took place in Sevastopol, but it was previously planned, and it started more than a month ago. Yes, thank you. Thank you for your remark. Starting from the 1st of August, when the grain corridor started its operation, when the first bulker left Odessa, the vessels of the Black Sea Fleet of Russian Federation, they were striking different regions of Ukraine according to open sources on the 8th, 2021, 12th, 24th of August, 2nd, 15, 19 of September, 9, 10, 19, 22 of October. So we counted it. It amounted to more than 60 strikes in total, 60 launches of caliber missiles from the Black Sea. I'm not counting the missiles launched from the air. And out of these days, on the 8th of August, 15th of August, 18th September, it was Odessa, and on the 9th of October it was Charkiv, and on the 10th and 22nd of October it was whole Ukraine. So at least there were 5 days where they were launching missiles from the Black Sea, as they, in a way that they state, they defend this grain corridor from the region where this grain corridors begins. So I think everything should be clear. Mr. Andrii, as of 30th of October, you said it was about 200 vessels waiting for inspection. What's your estimate of this number for today? This number decreased. I don't think that is the same. If you take it from the evening address of the President of Ukraine, he mentioned 218, I think, but this number, it changes not every day, but a few times a day. Some vessels get included into the grain initiative. Some of them, after inspection, they leave. As I mentioned already, this number fell substantially, well, maybe not substantially. They decreased maybe by 20. I think that now the Turkish and United Nations inspectors, they keep working. So Volodymyr Zelensky, in his evening address, he mentioned an adequate number because it was late in the evening yesterday. Dear colleagues, your questions, please. Vladislav Obuch, Ukrinform. Mr. Andrii, if we estimate current situation, what are the perspectives of joining the port of Mykolaiv to this deal, or should we forget it in view of the situation we're having now in Mykolaiv in terms of security and in the Black Sea in general? I don't think that there are any perspectives in terms of security for Mykolaiv now. We understand that the Kingburg Kosa and the part of Kherson region, which is located on the southern shore of the Dnieper, there will be no ceasefire, and I'm sure that Ukraine will not accept any ceasefire agreements and will hold no negotiations with this regard. What I forecast is that when the Russian Federation, when they got slapped with their messages, radio messages, when in fact that when Secretariat of the Joint Coordination Center, they told the captains not to listen to Russian messages, but go follow the messages of the Joint Coordination Center. I think they only got one solution left. In fact, what we're having today is only one statement by the representatives of the higher Russian authorities. It was Peskov, who said that without Russia they will have trouble with security. What he meant, what he could mean by that, is that Russian Federation can organize some armed incident in that region, so that they can put a mine in the route, or Marine Special Forces may do some sabotage activities. I think that this story with Mykolaiv is still far in the future prospect. I would like to believe, or I am almost convinced, like the Turkish are good sailors and good military sailors, and I'm convinced that Turkey now, if they are not doing it already, they start thinking about how the Turkish fleet may impede these activities of Russia. Mr. Andrii, thank you for joining our air. I will remind you we had Andrii Klymenko with us, the head of the monitoring group of the Institute for Black Sea Strategic Studies. And in a couple of minutes, we will continue talking about the Russian grain blackmailing. We will have Dmytro Solomchuk joining us, member of Verkhovna Rada and a member of Verkhovna Rada's Agrarian and Land Policy Committees. Stay with us.
Щас. Я не можу ніяк ефіри закончити. А, я ж його мотав. Сука, він вже закінчився давним-давно.